This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing your new fractional CFO that will be your Halo most important position hire, Lauren from ActiveCore Consulting, hailing out of San Diego with roots in New York City. And she is music to my ears because we're going to talk finance. We're going to talk EBITDA, which people know I love. And we're going to talk about how you make sure you can manage and measure and eventually sell your business. So, Lauren, welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So, look, in our business, a lot of people have bookkeepers. They've got accountants, and we get on and we help them try and sell their business. And it sometimes takes upwards of 6 months to actually decipher what their cash flow is, what their KPIs are, how you can articulate what the business model is actually through financial drivers. So talk about your background, why you've dedicated yourself to be a fractional CFO, and people you've helped, and some of the takeaways you've learned.
Yeah, of course. My background is heavily in finance and strategy. I started my career at PwC, did a lot of public company financial audits. I was an early employee at WeWork before they tried to go public the first time. And then I got into the fitness space at Equinox, where I spent the lion's share of my corporate career. I was an athlete growing up and then got into the accounting finance world out of college. And so coming to Equinox and back into the fitness space felt like the best marriage of my athleticism and my finance brain coming into one. During the pandemic, I lived in New York City. I was stuck in my apartment. I was bored. Because I didn't have anything to do in terms of work was slow, fitness industry was kind of slowing down. So rather than finding a creative outlet through arts and crafts or bread making, I was like, let me start a company. And so I reached out to the cycling studio owner of the studio I was a coach at and asked her how she was pairing through the pandemic. Obviously, no one was doing great. And so I helped her restructure her business, helped her open the first outdoor cycling studio in Brooklyn. Since you're in New York, Bikeland was my first client. Okay. And so she was like, this is amazing. And she was an MBA grad from Wharton. So I was like, wow, if this amazing smart studio owner needs my help, I imagine most people are in the same position. So it really started out as a labor of love during COVID, just wanting to help out the industry and kind of get my feet wet into what a consulting business agency would look like. And about 5 years later, we have fully grown. I have 8 other people on my team. We're also growing into not just fractional CFO, but also sales and operations coaching. Wow. So the ideal flow is you come in on the finance side. We have bookkeeping services. We have finance services. So our fractional CFO offer is a really holistic offering where we clean up your P&L. We make sure you're giving reporting that actually speaks to what your business is doing so we can make smart operational decisions rooted in your numbers. We build you out a 3-year business plan with monthly goals. So when you're doing your weekly and monthly KPI metrics, you actually have something to base your metrics against, so we can really keep a tackle on your business and what you're doing, what you're not doing. And then our sales and operations coaches will really come in and help you nail down your sales process, your communication process, your team building, your community building, your retail strategy, and just everything that comes along with running the 4 walls of our studio. Our sales and operations coaches have also come from the boutique fitness world, from Barry's Boot Camp, Orange Theory Fitness, a lot of big Equinox generators, and helping out big names that we've all taken our skill sets to help the smaller entrepreneur career.
So before we get into the business, what was your athletic prowess? And we have to get you a copy of our book, which is called Time to Win Again, where it's 52 takeaways from team sports to run a succceral business. So it's a caricature picture book, kind of like Where's Waldo meets Good to Great. But we love what you're doing. You know, we're focused, as most people know, on the mergers and acquisition side. And a big piece of our business is making sure that we have a bulletproof historical and projection model and be able to tell the story of what's a special sauce of a club chain or studio concept or franchisor. And it's really difficult to do that unless somebody has a handle on how they're driving the business, what levers they're able to focus on and actually, put rocket fuel on or not, and as you reference, you have to have a handle on those monthly in order to prove to an investor that you're not just running a four-wall business, but you know how that four-wall business model and revenue model works. So first off, what's your sport of choice?
I was a big soccer and volleyball player growing up.
Okay. Nice.
Live and breathed sports every weekend up and down the state of California. My poor parents were just driving my brother and I to all of our competitions and tournaments, and
awesome.
It was fun. Yeah.
I was a goalie. I just retired a year ago.
I was a goalie.
At 52. No way. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. All right. So we're fast friends.
Love it.
My mom used to tell me like, oh, there's 10 other people that it got past, so it's okay that it got past you. And I'm like, no, Mom, I'm allowed to use my hands. So,
yes,
quit making me feel, comforting. I say, well, you'll see in the book, like the CEO of the company is really the goalie. And, I'm responsible for people not losing, which, in your current, profession, you're basically, like the defense, for these businesses. So, Dave, make sure we get a copy of the book to Lauren as soon as possible. It's always good to have another goalie, on board here. From a standpoint of when you got involved with your first couple of clients here, they're either on ABC, they're on My Body. What role were you either replacing or what role were you shocked that wasn't there?
It was more so just transparently shocked that wasn't there. Yeah. I think a lot of studio owners who were successful pre-pandemic didn't have to keep as tight of a pulse on their cash flow and how impactful certain operational decisions are going to have on their profitability and their cash flow. But once COVID hit, obviously revenue just plummeted. So each decision was so much more valuable and so much more important. So in the early days of the business, my goal was really just to keep people from not going bankrupt and not losing all of their cash. So really helping them understand cash flow analysis. If we make this change, what is the downstream effect on your profitability, and helping them manage cash flow and make sure they can pay all of their people. And then as COVID started to recover and our industry started to recover, and then it was really about helping studio owners. How do we regain the revenue that we lost during COVID? What operational changes do we need to make given this new landscape? And then that's where I really brought in a lot of the sales and operations coaches that we have now to help them redo a lot of their communications, their sales, their marketing tactics. How do we operate a schedule? How do we manage a team? And so we really have partners that do everything under the sun that you need for a boutique fitness, just depending on what you need, is dependent on who on the team that you'll work with. And now that we're, COVID is in the backseat, thankfully, a lot of our studio owners are opening up new studios, growing their portfolio, figuring out how are we going to gain funding for a third, fourth, and fifth location. And so my role with them is really outward expansion, growth planning. What metrics do we need to hit in order to be attractive to an investor, and helping them build out the bigger vision. But also on a smaller scale, they still work with our finance coaches to make sure we are always understanding what are the cash flow needs of the business, what is our cash flow run rate. Every single month, we give our clients a P&L review. And what that means is we take the budget and the projections that we have set, we marry that up against the actuals that happen in your business. And through the story of your P&L and then working with me, since I know the operations of your business, we merge the two together so you can see, okay, we made this operational change in the business and we expected revenue to grow 5%. It only grew 3%. What happened? So we'll dive into that. Conversely, if it beat budget, then we really want to understand why it beat budget so we can continue doing the good and leave what's not working. So we do that for every P&L category that we have. And it's really important for me, for our CEOs to understand their numbers, what's coming in and out of their business so they can make better decisions.
From a standpoint of a lot of studios, I mean, most of them historically have been on My Body. When you go into a company and diagnose, okay, we can help you, do you want them to be on a certain software, or would you rather have that remain nameless, or do you find that certain software is better deployed and able to give you the reports that you need?
Yeah, it's a good question. Ironically, we don't have any clients on MindBody. When we came in with a lot of the post-pandemic newer studios, they were all going into Mariana Tech, which I think I don't think there's a perfect system. I think every system has their pros and cons. And we could probably have a whole podcast riffing on what the pros and cons of each platform. I like Mariana Tech for reporting. I think they have opportunity to better integrate their marketing brain bot with the system, so it's a bit more seamless. A newer system that we've become partners with is Walla, because everything is under one operation. They're the only system that has an actual CRM and lead flow, which is really important for our sales and ops team and how they coach our studio owners and managers on how to follow the journey in the sales process. Another system our clients use a lot is Moments. So I would say like those are probably my top 3 systems that we've seen the best results with.
Gotcha. And then when you look at these systems and you look at what the operator has been using prior to getting involved, do they have like a management dashboard? Is there like a KPI? I use the term crystal reports from back in the day.
Yeah, I remember those.
But are you kind of building those out for people and also like providing almost like an educational roadmap on not only your CFO, I'm actually like teaching you how to manage this business and actually understand you can sleep at night or you can't, or, here's like 3 or 4 things. You can't just cut marketing and assume that, the business is going to be the same. You can't have less programs on the calendar because you got revenue per hour, that we're looking at here. So what are some of the things where you're one, you go from like shocked into like execution mode and saying like, look, if you hire me, you have to run the business the way I'm telling you to run the business, because I know how your business works. And I know you might have certain things that you look at, but let me just tell you how successful studios work. And I've got enough data and I got enough clients to tell you how to do that and kind of trust me.
Yeah,
I'm sure if there's a question. I think there was a question there somewhere.
Yeah, I follow bouncing ball for sure. We definitely have a specific framework that we use on both the finance side and the sales and operations side. And so what I teach in our program is our signature framework. Right now, we're taking people through an 8-week group program to get your financial foundations. It's called Finance and Flow. Depending on when you're listening to this, we have a 8-week program that kicked off this week, the end of January, and we do another one in the summer. And it's 8 weeks to take you through like what exactly do you need to have in your business to feel financially confident. Everybody wants financial freedom, but before we have freedom, I believe we have to have confidence in our numbers and confidence in what we actually need to do in our business to hit the goals that we can so we can feel financially free. So throughout this program, we take them through the journey. KPI metrics is the number one thing that I teach. We have to do this on a weekly basis, and then we do it on a monthly basis to recap the month. Once we have your business plan, you have specific goals that you need to hit each week for first timers, leads, intro offers, new membership sales, class packs. And so those goals are funneled into your weekly KPI tracker. So your studio manager can pair up how you're doing each week against the goal that we have. And you can make operational changes in week over week, depending on what you need more. Do we need more leads? Do we need more intro offers so we can hit that membership goal? It's all just a big math game, right? It's all conversion percentages. So once we have the history of your business, we know how you've been performing, and then we can help you project out what the next 6 months to a year will look like. And then if we add in our sales and marketing coaching, we have the data to say, okay, on average, your conversion rate will go up 15 to 20%, depending on where you started, if you work with our team. So that's just a really powerful visual for owners to see where they're at versus where they can be with the right coaching. Obviously, you have to do the work and follow the framework, but we're laying it all out for you. So as long as the owners do the work, we see really good success.
Yeah, during COVID, we started up something called Halo Academy, and it's basically an executive boot camp where we go through the business models on Planet Fitness, CrossFit, Soul Cycle, Cycle for Survival, and Peloton. The next one starts on a week from now. If we'll send you a comp on that if you want anybody to sit in, because we're basically trying to explain to them, if you're going to operate in this market, you got to understand how your competitors make money and how you can either combat that or how you can maybe take some of those learnings. Obviously, studios don't have annual maintenance fees, which sometimes equates to 50% of the total cash flow of a Planet Fitness, as an example. So we love what you're doing on the education side and kind of having people understand, like, this is how the revenue model works and this is what you have to provide on your end. Um, do you find that, in some companies that you go into, they come to you as like a last resort, and it's like, hey, can you kind of fix this? We don't have any money left to put into the business, and it's almost like a rescue, CFO situation, and maybe you say, look, I can't help you because this is not something where, you know, you should have called me like 6 months ago, which sometimes I feel like I want to help everybody, but I can't.
Yeah.
Um, or what do you go through to kind of diagnose? And also, it kind of like dovetails into like, who's your ideal client as a studio operator? Like, there's certain things I can and can't do, or who
Yeah.
I want to target.
Yeah, luckily, since our business is growing and the agency is getting more involved with other coaches, we do have an offering for almost every level of business, as long as they're able to support the investment level needed to, pay for us. So we put ideal clients into two categories. We have we call them Studio Rescue, and that's kind of under what you were just describing.
Oh, okay.
You're probably not cash flow positive. You have some success and you feel like you have a good vision and you can see the road to it. There's just something that's not syncing correctly. And for our studio rescue clients, we actually have them skip the fractional CFO, which is normally our first step, and just go right into sales and operations coaching because something is wrong, or I shouldn't say wrong, needs to be adjusted in your operating process so we can get more leads in, so you can have the money to invest, to really think through of what a bigger 3-year strategy will be like for your business and get that financial support and help to walk you through the steps. But sometimes we just need to stop the bleeding and get the top line revenue up so you have capacity to start paying yourself so you can stop living in scarcity mode and then make other investments in your business to continue that growth.
Mm-hmm. And then, not necessarily to pin an actual dollar amount, but what's an entry point for a studio on a monthly basis to be able to bring your team on or some component of your team, so you just know that this is cost effective and probably the best return on investment they're going to get in any outsourced advisor or provider.
Yeah, it's a good question. And there sometimes isn't necessarily a revenue goal that they need to hit. It's more like, do you have the money to invest with us? So ideally, if you're within the $10,000 to $25,000 a month revenue range, it's probably too low to invest with us. But if everything that you own is tied into this business and you have to make it work, and you can find the money to invest in our coaches, they will help you increase your revenue to what you need. However, our true ideal client is bringing in at least $50K a month in revenue, to really go through the full journey with us. We want you to be on the road to 7 figures, having 1 or 2 studios, and you want to open and grow your portfolio. That's the ideal client for me on the fractional CFO side, but there is a bit more flexibility with that studio rescue type offer with our sales and operations coaches, to help you to stop the bleeding. Just get some more.
And what would be, and I like to use the term invest because I talk about marketing as an investment in your revenue. It's not an expense. Yeah. So when you talk about your fractional CFO role, can you give us a range of what that minimum would be?
Yeah, to join our group program, and that's where everybody starts now, is so you can get the 8-week fractional roadmap or finance roadmap for your business. To just do the group program, it's a $2,000 investment. If you want to have the one-on-one time with me and the team to help you go through the worksheets and get your business plan together, that's a $3,500 investment. Okay. And what we've seen is like the people who do the VIP upgrades are the ones that will actually implement implement the strategies. You could obviously do it on your own. It's just, more one-on-one support is always beneficial.
So there are a lot of franchisors out there that sell people a franchise or award them. Usually the ones that are sold maybe don't have something called Item 19 in their financial franchise disclosure document because the unit economics, just aren't proven or aren't good. So they don't put it in there. I've always used a benchmark for the last 10, 15 years of you have to really be doing $60,000 a month or 2,000 a day, regardless of really what your rent is, to not be paying more to the landlord than you are in cash flow to yourself. Do you have any kind of benchmarks or, hacks, if you will, to say like, look, once I get your financials, I know what the problem is, right? I got a revenue issue. I got a marketing issue. I've got, I'm overpaying people. I've got too many, I've got too many of your family members on staff, or
Yes.
is there a revenue kind of threshold where it sounds like you're using 50, that you say, look, if you can't make X dollars per month in and paying full rent next to a hair salon that's open 16 hours a day, then you're open next to a Dunkin' Donuts, so you're open up to, this, European wax or lash, amazing lash, or what have you, where you're like, look, you just don't have enough programs on the calendar to actually generate enough revenue. What are some of the things that you see as maybe just like, industry benchmarks to say like, look, we got to get you up to X for you to even be relevant and to stay alive?
Yeah, one of the first things that I'll look at with a new client is instead of just revenue targets, I like to look at expense categories as a percentage of revenue. So we'll look at studio payroll as a percentage of revenue, marketing, rent and operations, all the different categories. And actually, one of the things that I would love to gift your listeners, I created a calculator for just the average business owner. It's a more high level analysis than what we do, where you enter in your revenue, you enter in different expense categories, and it will help you show you where you're spending too much or too little, or if you have a revenue problem where we need to just generate more revenue. So that will be in the show notes with the link where you can download that calculator. And so just like some basic assumptions that I like to call out from like a marketing standpoint, I usually try and have people stay around 10% unless we're in growth mode and there's a specific strategic initiative around it where we want to punch out a bunch more ad spend. Rent, ideally less than 10%, 7 to 8% of total revenue would be super ideal. Which probably sounds crazy to some people, but it's definitely possible with the right strategy. And with payroll like that, in my opinion, payroll is going to be your most expensive line item after rent. And so we try and keep our studio's payroll around 30% of total revenue. And then there's other buckets that we have, but I think payroll, rent, and utilities, and marketing are the ones that I like to focus on initially. And that's what's driving that calculator template that you guys will all get.
Yeah, and from a sales and marketing standpoint, we used to own a couple of bar businesses, and one of the things that kind of shocked me is the lack of co-op marketing that people could and should be doing in their local strip center. If you're next to a hair salon, and you are a Pilates or bar business, the fact that either the manager at that location doesn't have a comp membership, or doesn't have, get a haircut and get a free bar workout, or, at like a First Watch, breakfast place where they're doing like 300 or 400, transactions a day. Like, how are they not just putting in there, like, our friends at X Bar, want to welcome you to this, show your receipt, get a, and get a 3-day pass? Or like, are you seeing a lot of people think like, oh, my SEO this, my SEO that? It's like, there are people with cars that drive in here that pass by and they have no idea what's going on inside here. Like, why don't we actually talk to them and build relationships? So are you seeing a lot of that? Like, people are like, oh, I did email marketing, I did text messaging. It's like, why don't you talk to people,
I'm laughing because this happens almost every new client we get. It's a huge gap which is like an easy win for us to help them with community marketing and having their studio manager or their event, whoever is in charge of this, get out in the community and create those relationships. I also think because our world has become so digital, even having the front desk team learn how to have conversations with people that are coming into the studio is a huge area of opportunity that we help our clients with. One of our coaches, Jamie, has this amazing sales training. At the crux of it, it's basically teaching you how to have conversations, but it's teaching you how to have conversations based on different behavior attributes that you can identify people in certain personas and certain behaviors. And so based on their certain persona or behavior, we know how to talk to them based on what they want. So it really helps our studios with conversion. She did a training back in November, so it was about 3 or 4 months ago for a client. And the last 2 months, this client's new sales numbers have way overblown budget. Like, for example, we had like 50 was her goal, and I think she hit like 75 new sales.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So we're just like really learning how to have conversations and taking sales out of the process and making it more conversational is a shift that we really help clients with. She actually would be very mad at me if I called it a sales training, because it's not a sales training. We're actually like teaching you how to have conversations, but the word sales is what I think resonates most with people. Yeah.
Gotcha. In closing here, just to keep it under our cap, how bullish are you on the boutique studio space? And do you have franchisees that are under a franchisor where you're like, look, I know this is the operating model that you're supposed to be deploying, but let me pour some rocket fuel on here, and you might become the best franchisee, and kind of listen to me, but stay within the parameters of your franchise agreement.
Yeah, franchises are tough, right? Because I think you believe that you're coming into a business and you're getting a business in a box, and the franchisor in theory is supposed to do all these things to set you up for success. But in actuality, there's a lot of gaps in training, a lot of gaps in specific sales processes, and you're having to pay a lot of money out to franchise fees and this fee, and you have to order things a certain way. Everything is just so scripted, which could be great for some people, but the clients that like working with me are like me. We're true entrepreneurs, and we want to do things our own way. And so something that we've been really working on as a business is how can we give our clients a business in a box, but instead of it being somebody else's business, it's exactly the business that you want to build. And so through all of our partnerships and coaching, we hit all of those pieces that you would get from a franchisor as a business in a box. But it's even better because it's yours and you can make whatever decisions you want or need to. And that's where the creativity of working with our team really comes into play, and not having any rules and getting to do whatever you want to make money.
I kind of wrote this down as a joke to myself as you were talking at the beginning. That says you should have like little font letters that they could put on their sign that says like "Buy ActiveCore" or like "Profitable by ActiveCore"
at
the bottom on like the top of the sign coming in. And then in closing, do you have any good quotes or anything you live by or Laurenisms inside your company that you could share with us?
Yeah, something that Jamie and I created really early on, because both of us are recovering perfectionisms and just super high achievers. And as an entrepreneur, perfectionism has to be thrown out the window. So whenever we're working on something and we feel like it's taking too long, we ask ourselves, is it ready to fuck it, ship it? Sorry if we can't curse on here.
No, you can curse on here.
Okay.
It's actually preferred.
Great. So fuck it, ship it. Is it in a place where it's good enough and we can put it out to the world and at least starting to get some traction on it? Because we know 50 to 75% of us is most people's 100%. So
good point.
Ask yourself, fuck it, ship it. Stop overthinking. Stop with the perfectionism. The world just needs your gifts and whatever you can contribute.
I like it. All right. From a fellow goalkeeper to another, thanks for keeping the defense tight. And, you can be my sweeper or my striker or vice versa. So
I love it. I was
awesome.
All of those two. So we can play the game.
Stopper. Sweeper or stopper. I said striker. I don't deal with those guys. Awesome.
Thank you for having me.